Hello friends, welcome to CEC Live Lectures. Myself Aditya P. Tripathi. I'm once again here with you to continue our discussion on a very interesting and very pertinent topic of accounting, that is IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. When we were talking about financial shenanigans, this series actually was expecting us to explain IFRS first, because unless we understand what is IFRS, we cannot tell you that what is the plight of shenanigans in the regime of IFRS, that in the era of IFRS what is going on, whether it could stop, whether it could control, contain the shenanigans or not. So this is going to be the first lecture on IFRS, Understanding International Financial Reporting Standards. This lecture is actually the part 1 of our lecture series on IFRS. Now in this very lecture I will be telling you what is IFRS all about, what is the background and need of IFRS, why we went for having this new regime in place of erstwhile accounting standards. Earlier we used to have accounting standards, now we have International Financial Reporting Standards. Then I'll be telling you scope of IFRS, India and IFRS, whether we adopted it or we conversed with that. Actually we have conversed with IFRS, we have not adopted it as it is. Earlier we used to have NACAS, that is National Advisory Committee on Accounting Standards. Now we have NAFRA, NFRA, National Financial Reporting Authority. So we'll have to actually understand what is the change and what was the need of the change and what kind of change we have witnessed in the field of accounting and specifically speaking IFRS. Then I'll be telling you about the roadmap to IFRS, the way we have implemented, and eventually I would be coming to the comparative summary of Indian accounting standards, that is Ind AS and IFRS. Now let me first start with IFRS, that is International Financial Reporting Standard. Whenever we ask a question to our learners, what is IFRS, they specifically and basically tell us the full form of it, that it is International Financial Reporting Standard. Before I tell you what is IFRS, let me give you a background of it. Let's go to the flashback of what was there in place before IFRS. Before IFRS, what was there? Before IFRS, we used to have accounting standards. If I talk about India, we used to have our own accounting standard, which was implemented by our regulator of accounting profession, that is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And then by abiding with the international standards, we have also adopted, we have actually conversed with the IFRS, and we in India we call it Ind AS. But when we talk about accounting standard, we find a term accounting to be present there. It was very much there into the standards, that the term itself was indicating that we are talking about setting some standards for accounting procedures, and we are actually implementing it. That was actually the motive under IFRS, under accounting standards. But in IFRS, what we have done, if you look at the name itself, it has now changed itself from merely being called as financial accounting to that of financial reporting. And this is very important. If you understand the very logic behind the change in the name of accounting, from accounting to the financial reporting, you will understand the very motive of coming up with the IFRS. Earlier we were talking about accounting. We are doing accounting, we are following certain standards, and those accounting procedures need to be followed. But under IFRS, we are talking about financial reporting, which means we are actually liable to all the stakeholders, not only to shareholders, but also to the government, to the potential investors, to the investors, and to the society at large. So we are not doing accounting only, we are actually going for financial reporting. So with this understanding of change in nomenclature of accounting standard to IFRS, we need to first understand, is it only a change in nomenclature, or there is a metamorphical change into the regime of standards for accounting? And I would definitely say that there is a metamorphical change into our standard accounting standards when we talk about IFRS. And you will understand that what kind of changes are there. I'll be telling you in due course of our discussion. What is IFRS? If I have to define, I would say actually International Financial Reporting Standards, they are standards along with the interpretations and the framework adopted by IASB. So it comprises of what? It comprises of standards interpretations, because our job is not complete with standards only. Once we are setting up some standards, we need to provide the interpretations also, so that people should understand it in right spirit and true spirit, and it is implemented in true spirit. That is actually the motive behind IFRS. So international financial reporting standards, they consist of what? They consist of standards, interpretations, and the framework which is adopted by its parent organization, that is IASB. What is IASB? This is International Accounting Standard Board. You all must have heard of IASC, that is International Accounting Standard Committee. I'll be telling you from journey of IASC to the level of IASB. So basically IFRS is implemented by IASB, adopted by International Accounting Standard Board. What is IASB? It is basically an independent, privately funded accounting standard setter, and it is based in London. So this organization, to which we call as the parent organization, the propagator of IFRS, which is IASB, it is an independent, privately funded accounting standard setter agency which is based in London. And in background, what was there? Prior to IASB, what was there? So first we need to know in which year this IASB came into existence. International Accounting Standard Board, it came into existence on in the year of 2001. It was founded on April 1, 2001, and basically it is the successor of the International Accounting Standard Committee, which was founded in June 1973, and the place is the same, the country of origin is the same, that is London. So prior to IASB, since June 1973 to be very precise, we used to have IASC, that is International Accounting Standard Committee, which was looking after setting up of the accounting standards at global level, and they were implementing it. And other regulators of respective countries, they were actually the member of IASC, and that is why they were implementing these standards in their own countries, with some modifications. Some of the countries, they adopted it as it is, some of them they made some modifications, they tried to customize it. But earlier, before 2001, we used to have IASC, that is International Accounting Standard Committee. You should first know what is the background of IASB. Some people think that it is only a 20-year-old organization, but that is not the truth. IASB, by its name, it is only a 20-year-old organization, but if you look at the background, it is actually it became successor of IASC, which was founded in 1973. So it has a long experience of a long and rich experience of setting standards and implementing it at global level as far as accounting standards are concerned. So IASB came into existence on April 1, 2001, and this IASB is basically responsible for what? What is the rationale behind setting up of this kind of organization? What is the need of this kind of standard setting body? It is basically responsible for not only developing the international financial reporting standards, but they are also responsible for promoting the use of it. So they have to first develop the standard. So in the background, they are actually working on that how to develop international financial reporting standards, what should be included into IFRS and what should not be included into that. That is something which is there, which comes into their scope of work. And once it is developed, what they do, they have to promote the use and application of these standards. So they have actually, if you look at their task, it is having, it's twofold. One, in first part, they are developing the standards, and in the other, what they are doing, they are propagating it, they are promoting the use and application of such standards. And remember, this IASB is nothing but it is a new name of, you should consider it to be a change in the name of this organization. Earlier it was IASC, and now it is IASB, that is International Accounting Standard Board. Why it is so important for you to understand the difference, the distinction between the IASC and IASB, the erstwhile International Accounting Standard Committee and presently operating the agency, that is International Accounting Standard Board, cause unless you will not be able to link the previous standards with that of current IFRS, and it may create some confusion in your mind. Sir, earlier we used to have a standard for statement of cash flow. Again we have the same standard. What has changed? What is the change? That I'll be telling you. So many of the standards which are forming part of IFRS, they were earlier known by its older name, and earlier we were calling them by the name of International Accounting Standard. In short, we used to call it IAS, that is International Accounting Standards. So IFRS is basically a new nomenclature assigned to the erstwhile IAS by our standard setting body, that is International Accounting Standard Board. So with this background, I'll be telling you what is expected, from IFRS. What has changed into IFRS. So remember, all international accounting standards which were issued, during the period of 1973 to 2001 by their board of IASC, they were actually, amalgamated. I would rather say on April 1, 2001, IASB took a decision. Either some of them they were modified, some of them they were deleted, or you can say they were not proper, they were not needed, so they were deleted from the list of standards. But some of them they were found okay, so they continued. IASB continued with the same standard. So remember that some of the international accounting standards, the erstwhile IFRS, what has happened to them? Some of them they were modified, some of them were withdrawn, and some of them they were taken as it is without any change. So I'll be telling you what happened to those international accounting standards. And remember, IASC as an institution, it has a responsibility for setting international accounting standards, and again they also promote it. Now the question comes that we understood about IASC, now IASB, we understood about the international accounting standard, that is IAS, and now IFRS. But now the question comes, sir, when everything was going fine, when we used to have standards and those standards were implemented, and since long, that is since 1973 till 2001, when there was no problem, what was the need of coming up with this kind of metamorphical change into standards, and why you talk about IFRS now? What is the need of having this kind of standard? Now let me briefly tell you what happened. Earlier every country used to have their own standard, because they actually tried to take some clue from the international accounting standard, and they modified those standards. Some of the countries they adopted it as it is, but most of them they did not adopt it as it is. What they did, they used to have their own standards. So suppose if we take globalization into consideration, where you are having a company which is based in India, it might have operations in 10 countries, 20 countries, or 30 countries, and so on. So how to compare the financial performance of your one unit which is operating in India with that of another which is operating in US or Canada or Germany or in any of the European countries? So the question comes, are they comparable? Can we compare the profitability, the financial performance and financial position of your balance sheet of India with that of the other country? Answer was no. So basically, what was the need? What was the problem which we were facing? And most of the countries, most of the companies, most of the stakeholders, if you talk about the government, not only company, even the stakeholders, they were finding it really difficult to compare. Suppose you are a potential investor and you wish to invest into the shares of a company, and for that obviously you will go for having a look at the fundamentals of the company, what has been the past performance of the company. And when you went for it, under segment reporting, you are finding different segments of products, you are finding balance sheet which are prepared in different perspective, in different countries, their balance sheet is prepared in a different manner. Now how to compare? So what is needed for us? Even for tax authorities it was difficult, even for the international bodies it was difficult. So what was needed? The need was that we needed a single set of accounting standard which may help us in standardizing the training of accounting procedures internationally. So again, remember, what is the need? We wanted to have a single set of accounting standards, so that whether you are, if you are an accountant, you are an auditor, and you are doing the audit of, say, company X for India, and if it has subsidiaries in other parts of the world, then you need not to undergo different type of training for that I need to first understand what is there into the US accounting system, what is there into US GAAP. Suppose if I take example of US, so Indian GAAP and US GAAP, there was lot of gap into that. So when I talk about generally accepted accounting principle, which is actually for Indian scenario, Indian GAAP was there, that is GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. For US we used to have US GAAP, which is still there, generally accepted accounting principle. So these two different sets of gaps, or even for other countries, they used to have their own gaps. So those gaps, they were creating lot of gap. So there was an urgent need of having a single set of accounting standard which may help us in standardizing the entire training process, so that we can prepare, we can create such accountants or auditors who are well versed into the accounting procedure and who know how to go for taking care of the entire accounting procedure, how to go for finalizing the balance sheet, and eventually doing the audit work. So when we are talking about the training procedure, objective is not only to tell them what is the procedure, but also to assure the better quality of reporting at global level. Now remember, when I say that we are talking about the quality of reporting, we need to understand what exactly we mean by this statement, quality of reporting at global level. Is there any information which is very particular, which is very significant for an investor or for a stakeholder, and you are somehow not able to disclose it, you are not able to report it? If it is so, then obviously your quality of reporting can be challenged. So quality of reporting doesn't mean that I am doing it for business and I have computed the profit, I have told you the financial position, my job is done. No. If you are not able to provide those significant informations which are actually very much important, very much crucial for the decision making by a potential investor, then obviously you are at fault. Because accountants and auditors, they are actually working for all the stakeholders. If I talk about a corporate setup, we need to understand that it is not done by done for any director or any promoter. It is actually done for the stakeholders, because company is having its own entity. No matter whether it is artificial or natural, company is having its own artificial entity. It is having its own common seal, it is putting signatures. They are only the office bearers. So we have to look from the perspective of the entire corporate setup. And that is why IFRS was actually the need of the hour. And what it has done, what was the motive, what was the rationale behind coming up with the IFRS? The objective was that it shall actually permit international capital to flow more freely. We were expecting that if we are having a uniform international accounting standard, what will happen? There is no hurdle to the flow of capital for FDI, for FIA, there is no problem. It will actually enable companies to apply consistent global practices for their accounting problems. So if suppose there is a company which is having global presence, suppose if I take example of one company in India that is called Haldiram, it is having its presence across the globe. You go to any part of the world, they even show their map also in their outlets that our presence is here and there. So what if they are having global presence and you have to take care of their financial performance globally? So obviously if there is a uniform standard, it is quite easy for the company to attract capital from foreign investors also. And it will not only help investors but also help the companies to apply consistent global practices for their accounting problem. So if there is a global accounting problem, there has to be a global solution to that. And obviously there is no other answer but IFRS, that is International Financial Reporting Standard. Now whether it is beneficial for regulators also, answer is yes, it is very much beneficial for regulators as well, because the complexity associated with the need to understand various reporting regimes must be reduced. Because suppose if there is a regulator and he or she has to look into the financial performance of the company which is having presence across the globe or different parts of the world, then obviously it will become more complex for that regulator to first understand the rule of that particular country, that what is the accounting standard there, what is the practice there, and then comparing the data. So you can estimate the kind of the magnitude of complexity which is associated with the need to understand various reporting regimes, and that need to be eliminated. Although IFRS doesn't say that we are going to eliminate it, it is going to reduce it, and even reduction is going to cause a big relief to us, to all the accounting regulators across the globe, and that is why IFRS came into existence. Now when we talk about the scope of IFRS, that on what type of companies it is applicable, for whom this IFRS is here. So IASB standards are basically known as IFRS, that is International Financial Reporting Standards. Suppose if somebody is asking you in a single line, that what is the scope of IFRS, what is IFRS, you can say that all IASB standards, they are known as IFRS. And remember, all international accounting standards, if I talk about the IAS, that is International Accounting Standards, interpretations issued by former, that is erstwhile IASC, and Standard Interpretation Committee, which is popularly known as SIC, they continue to be applicable until and unless they are amended or withdrawn by the IASB. So everything which was there in place shall continue, which was there in place before IFRS, before the existence of IFRS, whatever was there, it shall continue until and unless they are either amended or withdrawn. So I'll be telling you what are those standards which have been amended and what are those standards which have been withdrawn. Now when we talk about the applicability of IFRS, on whom it is, for whom it is, on whom it is applicable, it is applicable to the general purpose financial statements and other financial reporting by profit oriented entities. So if you talk about any profit making organization, obviously IFRS is applicable for those business enterprises. And those business enterprises may be engaged in commercial, they may be engaged in industrial, financial or similar kind of activities. But remember, we don't pay any heed to their legal form, regardless of their legal form, whether it is a partnership or it's a company or it's any kind of organization. It is going to be applicable, but specifically for corporate entity it is applicable. So no matter what kind of business you are into, IFRS is actually applicable for you. But yes, not when we talk about NPOs, that is not for profit organizations, answer is if they find it useful, obviously they can also make a good use of it. If they are finding IFRS to be appropriate for them, so even the not for profit in making organizations or NPOs other than profit oriented organizations, they can also make good use of IFRS. So this was actually a brief about the IASB, erstwhile IASC. Earlier we were having International Accounting Standards, now we have IFRS and scope of it. Now I'll come to the India and IFRS. So IFRS from Indian perspective, because we are talking about Indian IFRS, which is actually known as Ind AS. So if I talk about accounting standards or IFRS, I would say we have not adopted it. India has not adopted IFRS, rather it has converged with the IFRS. Now you need to understand the difference between convergence and adoption. When we adopt something, there is no modification to it, we adopt it as it is. But there is another term which is called adaptation, adopt ADOPT and adapt ADAPT. So when we adopt, it means without any change we are taking it as it is, we are actually accepting it. When we adapt, there can be some modification. So you can say that we have actually modified those IFRSs according to Indian requirements. So there has been huge round of discussion under the Board of Studies of ICAI, which is actually the regulator of accounting profession in India, that is Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. They have their own committee which has relentlessly worked upon this setting up of standards and converging with the IFRS, and I'll be telling you what they have done. So ICAI, that is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, it decided to converge with the IFRS. They said no, for Indian format or in Indian environment, we cannot adopt all those IFRSs as it is, because we have to first understand that what exactly is different into our scenario, and we'll definitely make certain modifications, and they have made modifications into that. So from accounting periods commencing on or after April 1, 2011, ICAI decided to actually adopt, to go for converging with the IFRS, initially for listed entities and other public interest entities such as banks, insurance companies and large sized entities. Although ICAI decided to start from April 1, 2011, but actually it halted for some time. If I talk about the roadmap to IFRS, before deciding it, in order to go for smooth transition to the IFRS, what they did, ICAI took up this matter of convergence with NACAS. What is this NACAS? That is National Advisory Committee for Accounting Standard, which was there acting as an advisor to the Government of India for implementation of accounting standards, and they actually had a consultation with the various regulators like RBI, that is Reserve Bank of India, which is actually the regulator of money market, SEBI, that is Securities and Exchange Board of India, which is again the regulator of capital market, and then for insurance sector we have IRDA. So all these entities, with them there was a huge round of deliberation and discussion on the convergence of this IFRS. But you should know what is different into NACAS and NFRA. Under section 210A of the Companies Act 1956, there was an amendment in the year 1999, and with that amendment this section 210A was inserted into the Companies Act, and it demanded for having an advisory committee for accounting standard which can actually advise the government to implement these standards. But yes, of course, they were only having advisory role, they were not having any regulatory role, which was missing under the NACAS. So what happened after NACAS, since it did not have any regulatory powers to regulate the above issues, what happened, we came up with NFRA, that is National Financial Reporting Authority, under section 132 of Companies Act 2013, which is actually a new enactment for us. As on date it is applicable. So under the provisions of Companies Act 2013, this NACAS was actually replaced with NFRA. And remember, it is not only an advisory body, but it is also having a role of regulating the accounting profession. It has got those powers which was missing in case of erstwhile NACAS. So the regulatory nature of NFRA basically aims to what? It aims to monitor and enforce the compliance with accounting and auditing standards. So they are having this role. So with this, my dear learners, I have tried to give you a brief introduction about what was there in practice before IFRS and what kind of changes we have witnessed. In the next lecture of mine, I will be telling you briefly what has changed and what kind of reporting standards we have. I hope you must have understood the very basic concept of IFRS. With this, I am ending today's lecture. Thank you so much.